Welcome to this week's edition of The Truth. I'm John Gordon. Tulsi Gabbard, she poked the beehive this week when she released what had formerly been classified documents. President Trump declassified them for the world to see. They were all about Russia, Russia, Russia. Now, for the most part, I don't think we learned anything new. I think that people that followed Russia, Russia, Russia closely, listened to Trump, listened to everybody in Congress, including Adam Schiff, could discern that it was a fake, it was a fraud, and Robert Mueller, after $40 million, likewise determined that there was nothing there. But we did not really have the smoking gun as to the origin of Russia, 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 until Tulsi Gabbard released the documents. In case you missed it, here's what she had to say from the White House podium.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration. We're here today because the American people deserve the truth, they deserve accountability, and they deserve justice.
Pretty strong words, deservedly, if you ask me. She said it was a coup. She said it was treasonous. And how else would you describe it? If people within our own government attempt to subvert a democratically elected president of the United States by inventing things that never happened and putting them forward as if they are true, all in an effort to undermine the duly elected president, I think that's treasonous. I think it is a coup. I think they should be punished. Evidently, so does President Trump. Now, folks, you heard it here first. I am firmly of the belief that this is just the beginning. I think that Tulsi Gabbard and the president and other people within his administration, like John Ratcliffe, like Kash Patel, are going to dig deep into the archives and the files of the United States government over which they now have complete control. And I think they are going to develop evidence, and this is just the world according to John. I don't have factual evidence to prove this, but I like to predict what I see coming down the pike, and I am predicting that we will see new documents that will prove the 2020 election was stolen. I also think that we will get documents which will prove that there was a conspiracy to assassinate President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania on July the 13th, 2024. I think that by the time the American people see the overwhelming evidence that cannot be denied, that it will be a giant step into the red zone of dismantling and forever discrediting and eliminating what we have come to know as the deep state. And I think President Trump took a giant step forward just this week when he really unmasked the deep state. It's what we suspected all along, but now we've got the proof. And here's President Trump letting us in on what he sees.
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it. And Biden was there with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper. The whole group was there. Brennan, they were all there in a room right here. This was the room. This is much more beautiful than it was then, but that's okay. I have nice pictures up. They came out of the vaults. They were in there for 100 years. This is much more beautiful. We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room, which wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do. But you know what? If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one look, he's guilty. It's not a question, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty.
Well, there you have it. It was Obama, Brennan, Comey, and Clapper, enabled and helped by the media. And I don't understand it, but the media seems to be captivated by the left. They seem to be enthralled with the left, and anything that the left comes out with, they are happy to report it, even if they know that it is not true. We've seen it over and over again. I maintain that they are on the take, that they are being paid to serve as the mouthpieces, not for the government, but for the leftists of the left within our government. I think we're seeing it played out now in real time. President Trump is unmasking these people, and lest I forget, let's add Hillary to that list. And so I think that we are in the midst of, and we are watching President Trump break up, disassemble the deep state in real time. I could not be more thrilled. When are Schiff, Pelosi, Kinzinger, Thompson, when are they going to go out with the rest of the bad actors? I think that it will happen sooner than later. President Trump is on the hunt, and he's got an A-team helping him. Now, they're going to say, this is vengeful. This is just Trump engaging in petty payback politics. No, it is not. This is destroying evil within our federal government. I've been saying for 3 years that our federal government is evil to its core. I think we're getting to the core. Now, we haven't gotten it all completely exposed. I expect many, many others will be identified as time progresses. And I think that what you see is happening on Capitol Hill in the Oversight Committee, with members of the Biden administration being called in and put under oath to tell the American people and to tell our congressional leaders who was running the White House during the last 4 years prior to Trump reclaiming the Oval Office. I think that a whole lot more is going to come out. And I think by the time that this is over with, we will have a very clear picture, a whole mural, if you will, of the people that have been subverting the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the United States Code annotated for their own political devices. Now, I'll throw a couple more on there that I'd like great insight into. I want the Jan 6ers completely absolved. They've been pardoned, but many of those over 1,000 people's lives have been shattered and broken into tiny little pieces just so Pelosi and the Democrats could cling to power and create this false narrative of an insurrection. I don't think that we've got the proof positive like we are beginning to get on Russia, but I think that I pray that it's all going to come out and we can get this country back on the right track once and for all, and that we punish, really punish. I don't mean just bring them up to Capitol Hill and scold them, punish. I mean punish as in orange jumpsuits, handcuffs, and incarceration for the evil that they have brought upon this country. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. They deprived you and me of our president for 2.5 or 3 years while President Trump and his administration fended off illegitimate, contrived impeachments. That is a coup. That is treasonous. Those people need to pay. And it needs to be written in history so that people in future generations will not be tempted to go there ever again. That is what I yearn for. I think you do too. That's what we're after. Well, you also know that it is my belief that President Trump is reconstructing our U.S. economy, at least as it relates to the federal government and monetary and fiscal policy. And that's what he has been working on since he got elected and since the inauguration on January the 20th of this year. He passed the big, beautiful bill, which codifies the 2017 Trump tax cuts, which fueled our economy. He added additional tax cuts to it. And now he has also created this new source of revenue called tariffs. And we have already collected $100 billion in newfound tariff money. Then there's $15 trillion of promised investment. So far, $2 trillion has actually been invested in new tools, plant, and equipment inside the United States. That is going to create jobs. That is going to create new revenues for our federal government. I predict that meaningful tax relief is still yet to come for the American people. Now, there are 3 more things that have to happen in order for President Trump to get the new economy that he wants. One other thing I forgot to mention, energy prices are trending down. When we get the most affordable energy on earth, baby, watch out. And it is coming. President Trump has made it clear that that is one of the primary focuses of the Trump economy. It is all being played out just as he promised, and the results are going to be phenomenal, I believe. So, the 3 things that need to happen are the president needs to get control of the reckless government spending. We don't like it, and the taxpayers don't deserve it. Now, you know, only 10% of the people in the United States pay 90% of the taxes. So the other 90% of the country really doesn't care where the money comes from. But you're holding back and depriving the 10% of the country that have risked and invested and created jobs and have worked to help form this U.S. economy and create our GDP. I think it is manifestly unfair to punish those people by having them shoulder the entire tax burden for everybody in our country. I don't know how you change that, but I think that's the political reality that we see being played out over and over, and why we cannot get control of the spending. But President Trump is getting control of the spending by trying to buy our way out of it, by increasing the size of the economy and the revenues of the federal government, so the tide rises for all people and the debt takes on a diminished relevance in comparison to our GDP and our national debt. Well, if it works, great. But at some point, I continue to maintain that adults have got to show up, and we've got to get control of the spending. It is unnecessary, and it's just burning money that people like you and I have worked so hard for. And I sent my taxes up this year. It was the largest tax bill I've ever had, and I don't mind. It is a small price to pay to live in the greatest country on earth and to be secure within our borders and be able to enjoy the quality of life that we get to enjoy and the freedoms that we get to enjoy. You can travel anywhere within the 50 states without ever pulling out a passport or an ID unless you're going to travel on a commercial jetliner. But you can travel by train, you can travel by car, you can travel by trailway bus. Do they still have trailway buses? Is Trailway still around? I haven't seen a Trailways bus in years. Uh-oh. There you go. Showing my age again. How about a Greyhound bus? I'm pretty sure Greyhound's still around. I don't know whether you have to show an ID to get on a Greyhound bus or not. But the point that I'm making is, except with respect to air travel, and it's for good reason, you can travel anywhere within our 50 states and not show an ID. If you're in Europe and you travel between Great Britain and France or Italy or Greece or Spain, you got to pull out your passport and have it stamped. And the size of Europe, I don't know exactly how it compares, but I'm thinking that the United States might be even a little bit larger than the European Union. So we've got it made. We are the luckiest people on earth, not just today, but in the history and all of mankind, being able to live in this great country with the freedoms that we have, the protections that we have. And it is my privilege and honor to contribute my fair share. But here's where I've got the issue. It's the waste, fraud, and abuse that I resent. I don't mind doing my fair share. I do resent them taking the money and wasting it or putting it in their own pockets or enriching somebody else. That's my issue. That's why I would like to see Doge continue, and I'd like to see the federal budget reduced, and I'd like to see these other sources of revenue that are going to help the tax revenue reduce the taxes of everyday working men and women within our country. I think that's a reasonable expectation. So let's see if President Trump can get it for us. Control federal spending. Now, President Trump, I think he's just busy. I don't think they've gotten around to it yet. The next wave, after the tariff agreements are put in place, we need to put a big magnifying glass on all federal regulations. If I were king for a day, or president of the United States for 4 years, I would appoint a blue ribbon committee that would look at every federal rule and regulation and law and determine, first of all, which ones are just flat out obsolete. Just get them off the books. You know, you and I are required to know the law. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Well, I'm telling you that Albert Einstein, Elon Musk, and you take the greatest brains in the world, put them all together, they couldn't comprehend the United States Code annotated along with the federal rules and regulations. It is just a fantasy tale to believe that you and I are supposed to know every law and rule and reg that affect us. Now, we have a really good sense of what's right and what's wrong and what's lawful and what's unlawful. But just like Chuck Schumer said, you cross the intelligence community, there are 6 ways to Sunday that they can get you. And usually the way that they get you is show me a man and I'll show you the crime. And so that's the part of our country that I don't like. That's the part of our country that has evolved into a state that was not like this, to my knowledge, when I was a younger person. And I think it's a very dangerous trend, and I'd like to see it reversed. If it's going to happen, President Trump is the one to do it, and he can do it. He promised that he would, and I believe that he will. That, too, ladies and gentlemen, is going to take the handcuffs off and the ankle weights around metaphorically, the ankles of business in the United States, and they'll get supercharged and they'll be able to really run and get things done without a bunch of bureaucratic red tape. That would be celebrated. That would likewise fuel our economy. So it's the control of federal spending, It's getting rid of unnecessary laws and regulations. And then there is a third. And that brings us to President Trump's visit over to the central bank. He went to see Jerome Powell at the Federal Reserve Bank this week. It was good TV, folks. It was like a reality show that is being played out in real time with our federal government. Here's a little visit. Here's the visit in case you missed it.
It's a tough construction job. They're building basements where they didn't exist or expanding them, and a lot of very expensive work. There's no question about it. And Tim has been with me for a long time, and
Yes,
you're
sir.
in charge of the committee.
Indeed, one of the reasons I wanted to see it was the overruns of the expenses, wanted to figure out why.
Yeah. So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2.
This came from us.
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added.
That's our entire capital plan.
Yeah, you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building,
Well,
including
no,
the
but
Martin building.
it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
Already been sent over.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's,
So,
not, it's not new.
So we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening.
What do you think? Tell me in the comments what you think about President Trump visiting the Federal Reserve Board and dressing down Jerome Powell for the world to see. I'll tell you what I think. I don't like it. I really don't. It's the part of Trump I don't like. If that wasn't bullying Jerome Powell, I don't know what it was. Now, you might say, well, Jerome Powell brought him on himself because President Trump has been advocating for the Federal Reserve to reduce interest rates since he became president again. And that is true. But as I have said before, and I'll repeat it again, I think that the Fed has done a phenomenal job of managing this country's monetary policy. They have been on a very high wire act to get control of the irrational government spending that brought us the highest inflation since the mid-70s, and they did it without devolving us into a recession or worse. And there were a lot of really smart people that were predicting that we would enter a very steep recession. And there was a short period in the Biden administration where I believe that we actually did have a recession. That's defined as 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. And there was that period of time. The declines were slight. You didn't really feel them. And by the time we learned that it had happened, it was after the fact, because the people that published the results throughout Biden's administration, we were lied to when the results were published. And then a month, 2 months, 3 months later, there would be revised numbers that would come out. So by the time we learned that we had been in a recessionary period, a very mild, call it a soft landing, it was after the fact. And so nobody cared, and it didn't get much attention. But it's a reality. It's true. So I just think that it is manifestly unfair for President Trump to beat up on Jerome Powell the way that he did. I think I might be one of the only people in America that actually like Jerome Powell. I think that he's a thoughtful person. I think he's a smart person. I don't get the vibe that he is a dishonest person. Now, you want to argue with me about it? You can maintain, and I think probably rightfully so, that he gave us a huge unexpected reduction in interest rates right in the midst of the 2024 elections. It smacked of politics. It smacked of helping Biden. And so that's the worst that I can say about him. but I don't profess to be an expert. I have not studied Jerome Powell. I don't have intricate knowledge about the Fed. But as someone who watches this stuff every day and has majored in economics in college, and I'm flattered that people have me on their radio shows every week across the country, from Los Angeles, California, to Detroit, to Philadelphia, and Hartford, Connecticut, and South Florida. It's a real honor and flattering to be invited to come on their radio shows and talk about my insights and analysis of the U.S. economy and what is happening in it. And so I've consistently maintained, and I could be wrong. Powell might be the worst snake that's up there, but I don't get that sense. He does not seem like a swamp creature to me, but he's been there a long time. So I guess I'm just considering the possibility that I could have it just dead ass wrong. But from what I can tell, I think Powell's a pretty decent guy, and I think he's worked really hard as the Fed chairman. And there's one other little factoid you might want to recall. He became the Federal Reserve chair by virtue of Donald Trump's appointment almost 10 years ago, over 9 years ago. And I'm sorry, people accuse me of having too big a heart. Okay, so be it. It's who I am. I do have a big heart. I call it compassion. You might call it weakness. I don't know what you call it. But I do. I feel like I have a very large quotient of compassion. Call it whatever you want. And I think that bringing a civil servant in who's really worked hard and appears to really be doing the right thing in his heart and mind. And it's not just him. He answers to a board. The Federal Reserve Board have branches all over America. San Francisco, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Miami. But he is the chair. He brings those people together. They collaboratively arrive at their policy. So we can just pick on Jerome Powell and throw mud at him and drag him before the cameras and make him feel like a little school child being brought to the principal's office, which is exactly what he looked like. I didn't like it. I would have had him come to the Oval Office, or better yet, I would have had him come to the White House for dinner. And I would have had Howard Lutnick there and Secretary Bessent. And I would have explained to him why his keeping interest rates high is preventing Donald Trump from being able to accomplish his objectives, which is to create the most robust economy of our entire nation's history. And then the federal deficit becomes less significant. I get it, and I like it. Mr. Powell, take the handcuffs off. We can't breathe. We can't breathe. You need to loosen the credit. Housing costs too much. Mortgages cost too much. Housing is flatlined. Give us some relief. He would say, it's coming. We just don't want to fuel inflation by lowering rates prematurely. I think he has a good argument to make. And I talk about the adults showing up in the room all the time. For my money, Jerome Powell is one of those adults. We should celebrate him. We should appreciate him. And yes, we should advocate for him to give us some credit easing now. It's been long enough. And let me tell you, that visit to the Fed, it had nothing to do with the budget overruns. If you want to talk about budget overruns, get your butt over to the Pentagon. Start pulling the layers back there. Let us see under the behind the curtain at the Pentagon. If we want to talk about budget overruns, take us to the Department of Education. Take us to the State Department. There's plenty of budget overruns and waste and abuse in the federal government. But Trump was mad at the Fed. And when he tried to get them to play ball and play by his rules, and they are independent, the president has no authority to tell them what to do any more than you and I do. And I think he probably has more leverage than you and I do. For one thing, he could call the national media over to the Fed to take a tour of the new construction and show Mr. Powell that the budget overruns total $3.1 billion. And Mr. Powell very calmly, he was not defensive. He said, well, you threw an extra building on there. You included the Martin building, and that construction finished 6 or 7 years ago. President Trump said, well, it's just part of the same program, whatever. You can see it, can't you? Can't you see that it was manipulation and it was pressure at its finest? And, President Trump threatened to fire Powell. Many people, including myself, don't think he think that he lacks the authority. Now, if President Trump went out and said, hey, I want you to resign, would he stick around? I don't know. The FBI director is supposed to be independent. You're not supposed to be able to fire him. But Trump did it. He fired Comey very unceremoniously while Comey was in San Francisco or L.A. I think he was in L.A. And he was in a meeting with 200 or 300 people in the FBI office there, addressing them. And he looked up on the flat screen, and CNN flashed a banner that said Comey has just been fired as head of the FBI. I mean, I thought that was kind of crummy too, but I think Comey asked for it. Comey got everything he deserved, and we still haven't paid him back enough yet. I think Comey will do a perp walk before it's over. You heard it here. I made a lot of predictions today, but I bet you that of all those people, Brennan, Comey, Obama, Hillary, I think Comey would be at the top of my list to see him doing the walk of shame in an orange jumpsuit. Why do I say that? Because not too many people like him. I don't even think Democrats like him. He made Hillary Clinton mad. She thinks he cost her the election. And then we know that he was a co-conspirator in the Russia thing. And then he tells us he just stumbled across 8647 on the beach. So he's also a liar. Well, he's lied to us a lot. And he's a leaker. He had admitted before a committee of Congress that he leaked a document. And if you work for the federal government, you're not permitted to leak. That is illegal. It doesn't matter if you're the director of the FBI. You're not allowed to do that. You do not have that authority. So you know how I feel about Comey. And Clapper. Clapper, he's been under the magnifying glass. According to him, he got lawyers in 2017, and I'm sure it's cost a lot of money, but I think deservedly so, because he was right there and helped advance the false narrative about Russia. And you remember the narrative was that Russia influenced our 2016 elections, and they were doing so for the benefit of Trump, but in collusion with Trump. And there was no collusion. And Putin said he didn't care who was president, whether it was Clinton or Trump, that he could get along equally not get along with either of them. I think that was the thrust of what he said. All right. So that's it on the, is there another trick? Is this clip on this is on Tesla, right? Yeah. All right. So let's move on. Tesla Diner, that's been rumored for a long time. By the way, do you know that you can watch us on Getter, Rumble, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and X? Come on over to the live stream. If you're on Getter right now, you're on the John Fredericks page. have no issue with that at all. But if you search for the John Gordon Truth and like us there, we need 44 of you to do just that, to be able to live stream on our own channel on Getter. But on the live stream, you can see the clips that producer Anthony over here works really hard every week to bring you. And it does add a little dimension, an additional dimension to the show. For instance, you can see me right now raising my seat that continues to sink like bog land in South Florida throughout the show. So halfway through, I have to hit the button and raise my chair, which I just did. You could have seen it on the live stream. I'll just tell you about it on the radio. We come to you on the John Fredericks Radio Network in 8 cities on 22 AM and FM radio stations up and down the East Coast, from Nashville and Atlanta all the way up to Morgantown, West Virginia. And the newest city now is Lynchburg, Virginia, has joined the John Fredericks Network. We also come to you on cdm.press. You can go there on their 13 digital platforms and on their live streams and catch us as well. And if you ever want to see a past episode or see what we're all about, just go to johngordon.tv. There's a lot of content there, and we'd welcome you to come on over and follow us on X. And okay, that's enough of the shameless promotion for this part of the show. Tesla Diner. We've been hearing about it for years, and it finally opened this week in Hollywood, California. And you got the B-roll running there, Anthony, so you can see the retro modern diner. You got servers on roller skates. You order if you're in a Tesla, you can order from your car on your screen. And while you're there waiting for your food, you can watch a movie on one of 2 jumbo screens. And they've got a world-class chef that designed the menu and delivered the recipes. I don't know why you need a world-class chef to serve hamburgers, hot dogs, and French fries, but that's what they're doing. I'm going to go to LA around in just a month from now, maybe 6 weeks, to see my grandbaby boy. And I'm really excited about that, and I cannot wait to go visit the Tesla Diner. But that was about the only bright news that really came out this week about Tesla, because they announced their second quarter earnings, and it was like, it wasn't a good quarter. And there are a lot of reasons for it, and a lot of the reasons are good, but clearly the demand for the car is not there like it was a year ago. I would maintain that Jerome Powell and his high interest rates are part of that. I don't think there's any question that the cost of a car loan would hold down constrained demand. And all automakers are seeing reduced demand, in fact. But it's particularly stinging to Tesla. Why do I say that? Well, because Ford and GM and Stellantis, they all trade at about 9 or 10 times earnings. Tesla trades at 150 times earnings. And I'll come back at the end of it on the other side of this clip and tell you why.
So Herbert, you heard the call. Give us a quick summary of what you heard, and then we'll break it down and figure out what we need to do.
Yeah. I heard a lot of people say that they came away with very negative opinion of what's happened, right? It was a somber call. Some reason Elon was very down. He was saying some breakthrough things, and then he was saying it in a very negative way. There was a lot of things that was sandbag, pushback. Optimus is only 1 million per year by 2030. There are only going to be prototypes this year and mass scale next year. The more affordable vehicle is now pushed back to Q4. But for me, the most important thing that I heard at that call as a Tesla investor is the progress of robotaxi. And for that, I think that they knocked it out of the park, literally, right? They confirmed that they're going to increase the geography in Austin in 2 weeks. He mentioned, Ashok Elaswamy mentioned that it's going to be 10x the size in Austin. And probably the most important statement of the entire call for me, again, I know other people are saying something different, was when he said that the the refinement that they had to do for robotaxi, that they had to first validate in Austin, is something that's transferable, and that it will allow them to scale in other cities, meaning to say that they don't have to copy what they did in Austin in every city that they expand to. They don't have to keep doing these validation trials. That will allow them to scale really, really quickly. Now, Elon said that we're going to expand in California, right? The Bay Area, Arizona, Nevada. And for the first time, he said Florida as well. And then he said, I think that by the end of this year, we're going to have 50% of the United States population technically possible to use robotaxi, but it's up to regulatory. But that is like some giant number. That was unbelievable. And then the other unbelievable thing that he said was unsupervised FSD is on track, that sometime the end of this year, people like who own Teslas, and they said, I think in Texas and in California, potentially some geofence, you will be able to drive unsupervised FSD, which means you can sleep in the car by the end of this year.
So there's a lot to be excited about if you are a Tesla fan or own Tesla stock, as I do. I hope you didn't buy it based on the information that I've provided over the months and years that we've been doing this show, or maybe I hope you did if you got in at the right time. But it took a big hit this week. On Friday, it bounced back. But it's down about 10% just this week, and it is down for the year. But there is so much good news on the horizon. I think that I'm as bullish as I've ever been. No, this is not investment advice. Do not do it. Don't buy, don't sell because I tell you to, because I'm not going to tell you to. But what I will tell you to is study it. Go look at it. You can get all kinds of information on Tesla, the company, and the product on YouTube. And I don't know, I guess I need to get a life. I need to get out more, but I thoroughly enjoy it. I watch videos on this company every day. I spend about an hour a day researching Tesla, the company, and the products and where they're going. Do you know that right now, with supervised FSD, the autopilot, full self-driving, but supervised, that accidents have occurred at a rate of 1 for every 7 million miles? Folks, it is already so much safer than an automobile without full self-driving. And this is supervised. That means you have to keep your eyes on the road, your hands on the wheel, and your foot at the ready for the brake. I'm going to use it to go to Miami and back this weekend. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But cars without autopilot and full self-driving have a wreck 1 in every 70,000 miles. I can't even do the math. I think it's 0.1. I think it's 99.9% better than a car without full self-driving. Don't hold me to that. I'm going to get some email now. Oh, go ahead. JohnGordonTruth@gmail.com. I've already told you long before now, I was not good in math, okay? You want to talk politics? You want to talk about the economy? Bring it. You want to talk about math or football? Probably not your best source. All right, so 1 in every 7 million miles compared to 1 in every 70,000 miles. That is just phenomenal to me. And Musk is saying that full self-driving unsupervised will be released before the end of this year. But the significant thing about the robotaxi is it's already released. It's just constrained to a relatively small geographical area, but that area has already doubled in size and it's going to double again, and they're going to continue to release it in more geography, and including perhaps Florida this year. We haven't even talked about the robot. They said, oh, well, they're only going to have 1 million robots by 2030. Well, as long as I'm one of the people that get one, that's okay with me. I want a robot there's a video that we showed you there when we were doing the B-roll about Tesla's earnings with the robot serving popcorn at the Tesla diner. And now the robot's supposed to cost about 20 grand. So that's going to be an expensive popcorn server. But I think the reason that we're seeing a little subdued expectations over the robot is that they're finding that it's very difficult to replicate a human being when it comes to doing a lot of the repetitive, boring, and dangerous tasks that the robot is supposed to perform. But the fact of the matter is, regardless, it is coming, and I hope I'm here for the payday, and I think it is coming at a very rapid rate. All right, so I told you I'm going to Miami, and guess where I am going tonight? I am going to see Coldplay. That's right. Oh, wait, I missed a clip. Before we get to the Coldplay, I wanted to make the observation that if there's anything about Tulsi Gabbard and her revelations this week, it's that the Epstein narrative and news took a second chair in the news priorities. But here was an interview that Piers Morgan had with Ghislaine Maxwell's brother, and he thinks that she's really been railroaded. You know, the U.S. attorney went down to her prison in, I think she's in Pensacola at a federal penitentiary, or Tallahassee. Thank you, producer Anthony, to interview her. And according to that prosecutor, she was candid, forthcoming, and he believed told the truth, and she did not refuse to answer any questions. But here's what Ghislaine Maxwell's brother had to say about her.
The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, has directed for her deputy to go and see Ghislaine in prison. What is your response to that, first of all?
Well, you really have to ask yourself, why didn't the DOJ ask to speak to Ghislaine before they indicted her? Why is it only now? And the reason I say that is because in 2019, after Epstein died and up until Ghislaine's own arrest in 2020, she was, to the best of her knowledge and her lawyer's knowledge, not a target. She remained in the United States. They made her, Ghislaine, available for questions and kept on being said, she's not a target, she's not a target. Suddenly, bang, 60 officers come down on a house in New Hampshire where she was, huge show, this part of arrest and so forth, and then there is a disgraceful press conference organized by the DOJ's attorney in New York, and she is pointed at with a picture of Epstein, the subtext being, this woman is guilty. So we considered that all of that entire process was prosecutorial misconduct. And finally, they decided that they want to talk to her.
So you think it should have been done years ago?
Of course.
Well, so the Epstein story just is not going to go away. It's still in the news, but it's taken a back seat to Russia, and Tulsi Gabbard. And it's not going to go away, folks, because do we have the clip of Trump? Did you grab that one? It's okay if you didn't. When he was talking about Epstein and why are you talking to me about Epstein? Why don't you ask Bill Clinton? Trump said, I've never been to the island. He's been there 92 times or 72 times. I don't know what the number was, but a huge number. He said, why aren't you talking to him? And Trump's never been to the island. And I thought that Ghislaine Maxwell's brother made an excellent point. He said that, the Biden administration had all the files. If there was anything in there to throw Trump under the bus, you don't think we would have heard it by now? Of course we would have. It would have been front page news. But we didn't get that, and we haven't gotten it. And so I don't think there's anything there vis-a-vis Trump. There is some reason that they have withheld the files from us. That's concerning to me. I think it's because of our own intelligence community and its ties with Epstein, or maybe it is Mossad and their ties to Epstein, or maybe it's both countries working in collaboration and conjunctively with one another with Epstein. There's something there they don't want us to see. And now they're saying, oh, well, we're going to show you we're going to unseal the grand jury transcripts. But, that's not where the treasure trove of information is going to come from. That's not where we're going to find the smoking guns. Well, I tell you, 2 people found the smoking guns this past week when they went to a Coldplay concert, just like I'm going to do tonight. Kristen Cabot and Andy Byron made the mistake of cuddling and cozying up to one another at the Coldplay concert. Roll tape.
And this is one that has really taken the internet by storm this week. You may have seen this video as I'm putting it up there on your screen. This, of course, has to do with the astronomer CEO, Andy Byron, who was caught there at a Coldplay concert on the Jumbotron, cozying up with his company's head of human resources. And it is official at this time. We know that the CEO has officially resigned amid this incident, according to the company. As you can see, this is the video that has, again, been going super viral on social media. The moments that were captured there on the Coldplay Jumbotron at that concert during the Kiss Cam.
That might be the most humiliating scene I've ever witnessed in my 72 years on Earth. If you're going to dance with the devil, you're going to get burned. They found it out the hard way. There were 65,000 people there. Why did the camera have to pick up on them? They've been asking themselves that question every second for the last 5 days. And I'm going to go to the Coldplay concert and I'm going to cozy up and cuddle with my wife, Helen. And I am looking forward to a great evening at Coldplay. I don't think you're going to see me on the Kiss Cam, though, but who knows? I think they're after a younger demographic. All right, we've got a good show for you today, right here on the John Frederick Radio Network and CDM.press, and on our live stream and social media, where you can also catch us. We're brought to you today by Perfect Circle Renewable Energy. They are a restaurant services business in the greater Atlanta area, serving hundreds of restaurants, doing their deep cleaning for their back of the house, front of the house, vent hoods, as well as they collect waste vegetable oil and clean the grease traps for restaurants. They even send you a manifest that you can have in your possession anytime the health inspector comes and wants to see the records of your grease trap cleaning, which you're required to maintain by law. PCRE just makes it easy for you. You can look them up at pcrenergy.com on the World Wide Web. They have a full-time customer service staff that will answer your calls. If they're on the other line and can't get to you, they'll call you right back. If you're tired of slow, inconsistent, dirty service from other suppliers in the metro Atlanta area, give Perfect Circle a try. Look them up on the web, pcrenergy.com. Check them out, give them a call. They'll come out and give you a free estimate, and they also can offer you containment and other restaurant services like pressure washing for your loading dock. All right, so let's get to our first guest today, Salvador Litvak. We're going to talk to him about Stephen Colbert finally got canceled by CBS for The Late Show. My only disappointment is they're going to wait until next May to run him off. But I tell you, I didn't grab a clip of it. We didn't grab a clip. I wish I had. But Stephen Colbert went on the CBS network, I think it was Thursday night, and just completely trashed his employer. If I was head of CBS, I would not have called Mr. Colbert into my office. I would have had my vice president of entertainment have him come into his office and politely tell him that your services are no longer needed. Here's your check. We're going to pay you through next May. Goodbye. Good night. Have a nice life. You're done. This guy is an idiot. Well, anyway, Salvador Litvak and I break it all down, and here is our interview. We're about to be able to say good riddance to Stephen Colbert. I don't know about you, but I kind of watch him like I used to watch Jim Bakker, the evangelist. I'd be channel surfing along, and there, sure enough, is Jim and Tammy Faye, and she'd be crying, and he'd be trying to sell condos that he didn't own, and I would just sit there so I could watch him to dislike him. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. Sort of like, Howard Stern, people who really like him watch him for 30 minutes. People who really dislike him watch him for an hour and 30 minutes. So that's not how I would choose to make my living. But Salvador Litvak, he is an author and one smart guy. He went to Harvard when it was really special, and he went to NYU to obtain a law degree. He was born in Chile. He is an author and has a book called Let My People Laugh, Greatest Jewish Jokes of All Time. And he also has a brand new movie opening at theaters near you, or maybe it's streamed near you. I'm not sure, but
In
Salvador,
theaters.
Welcome to The Truth.
It's great to be with you, John. And yes, we open in theaters today, July 18th. My wife Anita and I wrote the movie, and I directed, and we've been working toward this moment for 6 years. And we're very, very excited.
Excited and proud, I am sure. Let's start with the movie. Tell us about the movie. It's I had the name here.
It's called Guns and Moses, and it stars Mark Feuerstein, Neil McDonough, Christopher Lloyd, Dermot Mulroney, Jake Busey, and it's the story of a man of faith, a rabbi, an Orthodox rabbi in a small high desert town, who becomes an unlikely gunfighter after his community is violently attacked.
Wow.
And it's very much, we shot it in 2022. We started writing in 2019. The character was inspired by a real life event, a tragedy. There was a shooting in a synagogue in Poway, California. And a woman was killed, Lori Gilbert Kay. The rabbi had his fingers shot off. I went down, I attended the funeral the next day. I interviewed the rabbi and watched him become a national figure in the ensuing days, calling on the public to do mitzvahs, to do something good and holy, to make meaning out of that tragedy. I was very inspired by that. But we set out to make a thriller, a proper edge of your seat thriller. My wife and I watched a thriller a day for 2 years to prepare for it. Studied the greats like Hitchcock, Polanski, De Palma, Clouseau. And we're so proud of this movie. It's exciting, but we always knew that Jews under attack who fight back would be relevant, but we never could have imagined the world that surrounded us since the horror of October 7th, and in some ways even worse since then, this explosion of overt anti-Semitism and Jew hatred that we're seeing. I'm an Orthodox Jew, which is to say a visible Jew. We've been aware of the threat level for quite a while. I didn't grow up with guns or around guns, but as things became more dangerous, I joined an organization called Magen Am, Shield of the Nation, created by a Chabad rabbi, that trains and licenses regular guys like me to carry. And we're very strong on Second Amendment.
Well, I was going to say, thank God for the Second Amendment.
Thank God. Thank God. Because the bad guys don't care what the laws are. They have the guns. And the good guys need to be able to defend our communities. This is not a problem that's limited to synagogues and the Jewish people. You've had attacks in churches in Wayne, Michigan recently, and now in the Baptist church in Kentucky. And we've got to stand tall, stand proud, defend ourselves, and be prepared so that we're not soft targets.
So, Salvador, I've have had many Jewish friends over my life. And I really thought that after World War II, the end of the Holocaust, that we were all going to live in peace and harmony and good spirit. Where did the train get off the track? Why are we finding ourselves being put back 60, 75 years from where we are today?
It's a great question. We're always talking about it. People are asking this question all the time. The truth is it's nothing new.
I'm a little disappointed I didn't originate the question, but okay.
But it's nothing new. Our sages teach, and we say this at every Passover Seder, that in every generation our enemies rise up to destroy us, and the Holy One saves us from their midst. So we had a respite after the Holocaust. My grandmother survived and carried my mother as an infant through a concentration camp. My grandfather was murdered in a different camp. I grew up very conscious of the Holocaust. And so for a time, it was unfashionable to be out in the open with one's Jew hatred. So that's over. Now these people feel emboldened, comfortable. They shout their anti-Semitism from the rooftops. You have a Democratic candidate for mayor in New York City who has publicly called for the murder of Jews, saying globalize the Intifada. That's what that means. And does not recant his remarks. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And when he's called
Well, how many Jews live in New York?
It's the largest concentration in America. I believe 3 million.
Yeah. Oh my God. Out of what? How many residents? 8 million? No, I think there really
like
not that many people in the city of New York.
Yeah, I think
of the
you have
5
it right.
boroughs.
Right. I think it's like 8 to 10 million in the city itself and 20 million in the surrounding area, something like that.
Yeah, the metropolitan area is huge, and the people that commute in and out every day is substantial. But well, how would he get elected mayor? Is there a Jew in New York that would vote for him now?
John, there's not a Jew that I respect that would vote for this creep. But sadly, there are Jews that would vote for this man because they're upset because they've given up Judaism and Torah as their religion. And instead they look to progressivism. That's become their religion. And so they excuse any apparent fault of somebody who aligns with these progressive values. This man is not a progressive. He is a communist. He is calling for the murder of Jews. His whole story makes no sense. He's just going to spend other people's money until he runs out of it. He's going to shove all these laws down your throat. He makes promises like communists always do until they get elected. But along with that, I mean, this guy's a rabid anti-Semite, and he's talked that way all his life. And now he's being elevated to the Democratic candidate for mayor.
I really felt like we were so far beyond that, and that we had certain laws that governed our behavior in America in terms of our civility towards one another. You cannot be disrespectful to a Black person or else you will be immediately canceled. You cannot, I didn't think that you could speak ill of Jewish people without universal condemnation. I just don't get it. But is it possible that it's just a small fringe group of people that are capturing the attention of the media and it's being blown out of real proportion? Or do you think that maybe it's reflective of what is an underlying hatred that people feel in their hearts? Which I would think is sad if they do, by the way.
It's definitely not some kind of a mainstream view. I think that most people in America, most Americans are good. You know, we might disagree with moderates on the other side of the aisle. I think we both agree that freedom is good. We both agree that security is good. How much security will we trade for freedom? How much freedom will we trade for security? These are the kinds of issues that we can argue about where we have basic principles that we share. But when you get out to the extremes, then no, these people lose all reason. And the problem is that in their irrationality, they get very loud and they capture attention, which is what they want. And so I think they create an image, hopefully an illusion, that their numbers are much larger than they are. I pray that it's not as bad as it seems when you see this kind of militant anti-Semitism on the news every day. However, I mean, we see, you mentioned that I went to Harvard. I used to not talk about that. Now that it's a badge of shame, I'll be happy to talk about it. But I mean, think about it. These college professors, they are teaching these kids lies. You know, they just buy into this lie. You only have to look at a map of the Middle East to see how ridiculous it is to call Israel a colonizer when it's surrounded by 47 Muslim nations that encompass such a vast area. It's like curvature of the earth, right? Israel's like the size of New Jersey. And where do you live, John? Where are you?
Well, my main residence is in Atlanta, Georgia. I spend a large amount of my time in West Palm Beach, and I'm just finishing a house here across from Mar-a-Lago, in fact.
Oh, beautiful. Congratulations. What a beautiful place.
Well, I want you to come and visit when you come to this side of the country. I hope you'll give me a jingle and we will VIP it. on your name, by the way.
Thank you. And
I haven't written a book, I haven't produced a movie.
So I'm just saying, like, if you're in West Palm Beach, you know, imagine if Palm Beach were lobbing missiles at you, you know, all day long trying to kill you. Like, people in West Palm Beach would not put up with that, right? If New Jersey was lobbing missiles into New York would not put up with that, okay? If they were killing children in New York, they would not put up with that. They would level New Jersey really fast. And the whole world expects Israel to just put up with being attacked by a people that is just absolutely committed to the murder and destruction of Jews. And the funny thing is that the accusation confession is that they call themselves victims and that Jews are the colonizers and the aggressors and all this nonsense. And then this gets picked up and taught in the colleges. And you know what? It's bought and paid for, as we have found out. This incredible amount of Qatari money that has come into the American university system and has bought and paid for the teaching of these kinds of attitudes, and not only about hating Jews, but about hating America. They've paid for professors to teach American kids that America is evil.
So President Trump just went to the Middle East and visited Qatar, and they had a love fest while he was there. They like him so much, they even gave the United States a 747 so President Trump could travel around in style. The old one wasn't good enough. Now, so tell us, what do you make of Qatar?
They, in that part of the world, what they respect is strength, right? So for a long time, you had weak American presidents. You had local sheiks and emirs, you know, with tons of money and a hatred of the Jews paying for that. Now the winds are blowing differently. So apparently the bankers in Qatar are trying to hedge their bets. That's the way I read this. But be careful. Be careful who your allies are. America can trust Israel. That has been a solid ally, the only democratic ally in that region for a long time.
Yet we think that they spy on us regularly. And I'm thinking we probably spy on them too.
The Israelis?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, there's an intelligence community, but obviously we've been working in partnership for a long time too. When you have adverse interests, you know, then you have to be careful. You have to protect yourself. But if you talk about the quality of intelligence and defense that we've seen exhibited in the last couple of years, taking out Iran and all their leadership, taking out Hezbollah and all their leadership, Operation Grim Reaper, you know, I mean, Israel is punching way above its weight. But it's a tiny country surrounded by, you know, bloodthirsty enemies that really are trying to destroy it. And thank God, no, that is not a universal attitude among the Arab nations. I think that there's lots of great Arabs, you know, who we could absolutely live in hand with. But again, over there, like over here, you've got this loud extremist minority that we have to be very careful about.
Do you think that the Palestinians have any argument of merit? Do you feel that they have been persecuted or oppressed, and that could cause them to act out in such violence?
Well, I think 100% they've been oppressed. They've been oppressed by their leadership. They've been oppressed by Hamas. They've been oppressed by Fatah. They've been oppressed by the Palestinian Authority. Does anybody really believe that the Jews who returned to our ancestral homeland, which everyone knows who's ever read a Bible, that the Jews have an ancient connection to Israel, and that we pray every day, 3 times a day, for Jerusalem, for the safety of Jerusalem, for the return to Jerusalem. And we've been praying that for thousands of years. And then in the modern age, we finally have an opportunity to live there and to create a Jewish homeland. Does anyone really believe that the Jews in Israel want to expand Israel and fill up, the Middle East? It's obviously not. We just want a tiny little sliver
and live in peace,
called the Holy Land, and live in peace. And we have offered peace over and 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 over. And as Golda Meir famously said, if they would lay down their arms, there would be peace. That's obvious. If we would lay down our arms, all the Jews would be massacred because they behave that way constantly.
I've sort of maintained this paradigm, and I've said it here on this show many times over the last 3 years, that there is some component in my brain that sympathizes with Palestinians. They live in poverty. They are abused. They are oppressed, I think, from what I can tell. But when you go into a music festival and kill 200 innocent people that have done nothing to harm you, and when you assault and kill little babies and pregnant women, I'm sorry, whatever sympathy for you I may have had just goes out the window.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's just, I don't know what the answer is, but these people behave as in heathens. And I think that when people behave as heathens, they have to be treated as heathens.
Yeah, it's a tough nut to crack because their national product is hate. That's all they produce. Yeah. That's all they have.
Right. Speaking of hate, do you think that Stephen Colbert really hates Donald Trump, or is he just a mercenary that's living off of a niche that he's found, that he can beat up on Trump every night and get an audience to fill the Ed Sullivan Theater and yell and scream and clap for him and tell him how great he is? I think he's delusional, frankly.
It wasn't such a good business model. It's over.
Exactly.
Comedy dies in a woke aquarium, right? There's just nothing.
There is
funny.
Nothing funny in wokeism.
It's not funny. They're not funny.
Wokeism isn't funny.
It's not funny.
Just like Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Adam Schiff, they're just not funny.
They're not funny.
Donald Trump, on the other hand, he really is funny.
He's hilarious. He's a comedian, and that's what the left never understands. They take him so seriously, and they clutch their pearls and get so alarmed by every statement that he makes. And he's just a comedian. But he's a comedian and a businessman, and a brilliant businessman, who has made a fortune by every time he walks into a negotiation, he sows chaos. He just says the most extreme things, takes the most extreme position. They're like, oh my God, we're dealing with a crazy person. We got to try to get something out of this that's normal. And all of a sudden, whatever the terms were that he was going to get, they're better, And so, who would you want negotiating on behalf of America? Him? Or like any other Democrat candidate that they've ever put up, who would just, walk into the sort of international marketplace and just cough up the goods on behalf of America. Of course he's going to get us a better deal. Of course he's going to create strength.
You really think he's better than Joe Biden? For our radio listeners, I just nodded off there for a second.
Oh, man. I don't know who was running the country when Joe Biden was president. It certainly wasn't him.
I totally agree with you. In fact, the Speaker of the House said that he questioned him on some executive order he signed around liquid natural gas, and Biden said, "I didn't sign that." And he said, well, you sure did, Mr. President. Here's your signature on it right here. So if he didn't sign it, who did? To me, that was pretty proof positive. So going back to is the Israelis and Mossad, what's your take? Was Epstein working for Mossad? Have you ever been to Epstein Island?
I have not.
Oh, your wife's in the room, isn't she?
I have not been to Epstein Island. I don't travel in those circles. Thank God. I'm a happily married man.
Yeah, ditto.
You know, listen, I think it's ridiculous to claim that this was not a blackmail operation. I mean, what the hell else could it be? Where did that man make all his money? He never produced anything, never contributed anything to the world. And he was obviously trafficking children to rich, powerful men. I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for trafficking children to rich, powerful men. So since she's been convicted of that crime, it's obvious that she and the people who convicted her know who those men are. But we don't know who they are. So, yeah, I'm appalled by that. I think it's terrible. I don't understand what's going on.
I've taken the position that personally, I'm not interested in seeing the list, if there is a list. What I am interested in seeing is who was Epstein working for and who sanctioned him to do the things that he did, who allowed him to operate with impunity for 20 years. And I'm a little curious about how he did assemble his money, because I can't find where he produced any meaningful product or a legitimate customer list in the finance world, other than the guy who had the Gap, Lex.
I mean, let's just talk about this like a screenplay, right? Let's just pretend this is a fictional story. So if you had some kind of a guy running a blackmail operation and making millions of dollars by blackmailing these sleazy, hedonistic rich guys who go to this offshore island to get their rocks off in this vile, illegal, exploitative manner, it seems like after a while he would roll in people that were too powerful. You know what I mean? Like people that it would be dangerous for some private individual to have the goods on. So then at that point, some government intelligence agency probably would take over the operation. They would either destroy it to protect, their politicians, or they would just capture it and keep blackmailing people to control them. Now, I have no idea what I'm talking about. This is just me as a screenwriter speculating. But it seems like, is it a far-fetched idea that some government agency, took over that operation? And now it would be too, devastating and destructive to the American government to reveal such a thing. And maybe that's why we all need to get past it.
Or the other option, we do know that Robert Maxwell was an agent of Mossad, and we do know that Ghislaine is his daughter. And so one possibility is that he was working for Mossad. I don't think he could have worked for Mossad without the secrets or the CIA's knowledge.
That's what I'm saying. Even if you're right, even if it started as Mossad, then it probably became CIA. You see what I'm saying? Like,
or maybe they worked in conjunction with one another. I don't know. I watched a podcast this morning, and they hypothesized that Mossad was actually, or is actually, blackmailing America. That they've got goods on America that they don't want, that our government doesn't want people to see, and that's why Trump is going to such extraordinary lengths to protect whatever is there.
I don't think that we're kowtowing to Mossad because Israel needs America too much. You know what I mean? Like if it was gonna extract the behavior of America toward it through blackmail, it would be a terrible strategy, because at a certain point that would end, and then the repercussions would be devastating. You would lose the friendship of America. I don't think Israel and Mossad are too bright to put themselves in that position. So it seems to me that it was at some point some kind of an American operation. Again, purely speculating, but isn't there a history like the FBI had that in the days of Hoover.
Oh, Hoover invented the theory, I think. I mean, invented the
Exactly.
practice.
Like he had the goods on a lot of people.
And you know, when he died, let's see, who was president? I can't remember. Was it George Bush, the elder, or maybe? Yeah, I think. But whoever it was, he ordered his people to go to the FBI headquarters and to Hoover's home and immediately collect all of his files that he may have had. So I don't know where
too dangerous.
It'd be interesting to see where those files are today and what they contain. All right. Well, so tell us about the movie Guns and Moses. It comes out today. First of all, where do we watch it? How can we see it?
So there's a list of, we're starting in 78 cities. We're up against, we're David, we're up against Goliath, right? So Goliath is Superman, F1, Mission Impossible, Jurassic Park. The studio movies used to come out in 2,000 theaters. Now they come out in 4,000. So they take up 2, 3, 4 theaters in every multiplex. And to compete against that, an independent film like ours has to generate buzz. And thank God we are. People are very excited about this movie. When you show the trailer, people are going to see right away, this is not a movie that ever could have been made in Hollywood. It's going to piss off Hollywood. It is not the values of Hollywood. We really speak to all of America. You don't find profanity and nudity here, but you find a great thriller that respects traditional values. Like I said, it's pro-Second Amendment, it's pro-faith, and it's pro-truth. It's great to be on your show because we really are a pro-truth movie. And with big stars, and it's a great movie. But I'll tell you, when we had finished cutting picture and we started doing visual effects and sound, and we showed it, my producing partner showed it to a big agent, a major agency, a suit, right, in Hollywood, whose job it is to sell independent pictures to distributors. And this is an expert about what America's looking for. And this guy watches our movie and he says, great movie. You guys are going to make a lot of money in streaming. I said, well, thanks, but we see this as a theatrical film. He says, a rabbi with a gun, how many Jews are there really? New York, LA, Florida. I said, well, thanks. That's an important part of our audience, but a much bigger part of our audience is Christian and conservative. He says, what are you talking about? Those people hate Jews. I'm like, have you ever met the people that you fly over between New York and LA? Because it's clear to me you have not met them. And I interact with them every day. In addition to being a film director, I'm an influencer. I have a Jewish wisdom platform called Accidental Talmudist. I teach what's beautiful in Torah and the Jewish tradition with 1 million followers on Facebook, a few 100,000 more on other platforms. And I've been doing this for 10 years, and probably half, maybe a little more than half of our audience is not Jewish. And they tend to be Christian. They tend to be conservative. They tend to really love Jesus. And they're interested in what Jesus, who was Jewish, was learning when he was learning Torah, when he was studying scripture, when he was studying the tradition that stretches all the way back to God's revelation at Mount Sinai when he gave the Torah to the Jewish people on behalf of the whole world. And we learn together every day. My audience is not trying to make me Christian. I'm not trying to make them Jewish, but there's so much that we can learn together. And so I know that the average American who lives in the flyover states, as people like him consider, have a strong bond with Israel, with the Bible, with my tradition, with my people. They take Genesis 12:3 seriously, that God will bless those who bless the descendants of Abraham, and he will curse the one who curses them. And so, and look at what Hollywood does. They pump out prequel, sequel, retread, reboot. They have given up on making money in theaters. Even the biggest movies that you're hearing about right now, they're spending $200 million to open them. For them to be profitable is almost impossible. They've given up on making money in theaters, and they tell themselves that America has lost the theater-going habit because of COVID and because of TV and because of streaming and because of phones, when in fact, it's because America's lost interest in what Hollywood is pumping out, because it's the same thing over and over and over again.
Well, it's easier to blame other people and other things. You never want to look inward and see what the real problems are. But my parents taught me never to socially talk about politics, money, and religion. And here we go. I've got to ask you, just for my own intellectual need. I don't really. Jews pray to God, the same God that we do, I believe. Is that right?
There's only one God. There's only one God.
And Jewish people do have a real strong faith. But what is this about Jesus? Why is it so important that Christians believe in Jesus and Jews reject Jesus? I would ask it both ways. Why is it so important for Jews to cling to this notion of Jesus, the Son of God, and why do Jews reject him?
Well, we were given a law, that is the Torah, that is for all time. And according to the law, when the Messiah comes, and we pray for the coming of the Messiah, we long for the coming of the Messiah in the Messianic age, we pray for that every day. And when that day comes, the world will be fundamentally transformed. And so that hasn't happened yet, right? So we're not seeing that the knowledge of God is as universal throughout the world as the way the water fills the sea. Things like the lion and the lamb. I mean, you won't have to believe in God after the Messiah comes. You will be experiencing God's presence constantly. So for us, since that hasn't come yet, we're not going to say that the Messiah has come.
And that's where you would get a very strong negative reaction from Christians who actually have this little book that has survived the ages called the Bible, and the New Testament really is all about Jesus visiting our world.
But that's what we disagree on. Now,
yes,
what we agree on is so much more.
That's the point I was trying to get to.
3/4 of the Christian Bible is the Hebrew Bible, right? So the New Testament is much shorter than what you call the Old Testament, what we call the Hebrew Bible, the Bible. But we overlap the entire book of Psalms, the entire book of Proverbs, the entire 5 books of Moses, Joshua, Judges, Samuel, Kings, so much. And there's so much to learn and to do. And so, for example, and I'm going to have to go soon because I have to teach my class. Even now, as I have a movie coming out, I teach my daily Torah class.
Good for you.
It begins in 19 minutes. But I'd love to leave you with a short teaching that I think every person of faith would appreciate. What is the first commandment that God gave all humanity? What is it?
Thou shalt not steal?
Nope. That was that was included among the 10 commandments. But much earlier than that was be fruitful and multiply. That was the very first commandment that God gave. Now, what's interesting about that is normally we understand it as have children, right? Form families, have children, make sure that we have more people to pass down a good and righteous society to the next generation. But if that's all it meant, it would suffice to say multiply. What does be fruitful mean? What does bear fruit mean? And I
collect a lot of stuff, I think.
No, definitely not. Not collect stuff. Not collect stuff. Bear fruit. Bear fruit means this. John, you and I don't have souls. We are souls. We have bodies. We come from an eternal place. We'll return to that eternal place. We're here for a limited amount of time for a mission, for a purpose. Every single one of us, at a certain point, God decided that the world could no longer exist without you in it. And so he sent you into this world, and there was a reason that you were sent into this world. The challenge is that we come with amnesia. We don't know what our mission is. We have to discover it. Really, what we have to do is remember it. Now, if we keep saying, what is my mission? What is my mission? What is the problem that won't get solved unless I solve it? Who is the person that won't be helped unless I help him? What is the invention that won't be invented that the world needs unless I invent it? What is the story that won't be written unless I write it? Keep asking that question. God, please show me my purpose. Show me my mission. Why did you send me here? Why am I here? What is the unique contribution to the world that only I can make? And when a person keeps asking that question, the answer will come. It will come into focus, almost like a camera coming into focus on their mission. But it only happens if they keep asking the question. And that's what it means to bear fruit. Not everybody is blessed to have children, but everyone can bear fruit in this world.
That is a very inspirational message, and I really appreciate your sharing it with us. I was kind of being funny, but now I feel small with my selfish answer. But regardless,
we're having fun. We're learning together.
We are learning together, and I appreciate your sharing your knowledge with us. And I hope you do great with the movie. How much does it cost to get in?
It's a movie theater movie. It's a proper movie theater movie. So you can just go to gunsandmosesmovie.com.
I haven't been in a long time. How much is it?
These days, maybe $15 per seat, depending on where you are. Sometimes less, sometimes more. But I'll tell you something. People like what you just said, we've been hearing so much. I haven't been to the movie theater in ages. I'm going to go see Guns N' Moses. I want you to succeed. We need to have a big opening weekend so that we can expand. We're in 18 states this weekend, and we need to get across all of America. And the way that that's going to happen is if people get out with their feet and support Guns N' Moses by going to a movie theater. If there's not one near you now, send the link to somebody who lives in one of those cities in New York, Florida, Pennsylvania, California. Just look it up on gunsandmosesmovie.com. That's where the theaters are. And we appreciate so much people who come see it in a theater. I guarantee to your audience, John, and to you, that you will be entertained and you'll have something to talk about afterward.
Well, my wife loves to go to the movies. I'll run it by her and see what she says. I predict that she will give a resounding yes. So we talked about politics. We talked about religion. A movie is not cheap to produce, is it?
No, sir. No, sir.
So can you make a buck on it, you think?
If people come out in this weekend and next weekend and it keeps growing, it's a real word of mouth movie. We've already seen that. People love it. When they see this movie, they love it. They tell their friends. And if we become a hit in theaters, then we can make money. Thank God. I think we have that opportunity and people are getting behind it. For sure, it is not just Jews who are going to this movie. It's a broad American audience. Like I said, this is a movie that speaks to the values of all of America, not the elites in New York and LA who have really lost the plot on who America is and what America is looking for.
Salvador Litvick, thank you for coming on The Truth. You have been a really fun guest to have. I've enjoyed it. And I hope that the movie does really well. Guns N' Moses, and you can find it at gunsandmoses.com or gunsandmosesmovie.com.
Gunsandmosesmovie.com. And I just want to say one more thing, because this is why we were
plug
originally,
the book.
this is why we were supposed to do this appearance. It just happened to be on the day my movie's coming out. But I also wrote a book, and this is a lot of fun. It's a best-selling book. It's on Amazon called Let My People Laugh, Greatest Jewish Jokes of All Time. Again, not just for Jewish people. There's a lot of joke books that have too many jokes and they're not funny. There's just bad jokes in there. I weeded it down. There's 162 great jokes, the greatest Jewish jokes of all time. They're in here. They're numbered so that there's lists of, the best jokes when you have a first date or a business lunch or a golf outing, jokes that are good for those situations. So it's a great resource for anybody.
Salvador, I hate to do this to you, but could you lay one on us as we're going out here?
You got it. A rabbi, a Hindu priest, and a politician are out hiking. And they're supposed to have this hotel that they're going to sleep at, but they get lost. They can't find it. The sun is going down, and they're kind of scared how they're going to spend the night. And they see a farmhouse. They knock on the door. They ask the farmer if they can stay. The farmer says, no problem. But I got to tell you, I only have a small guest room. It's got 2 beds in it. One of you is going to have to sleep in the barn. So the Hindu priest says, no problem, my brothers, I will take the barn. The rabbi and the politician are settling down for the night. And there's a knock on the bedroom door. It's the Hindu priest. He says, my brothers, I'm sorry. There's a cow in the barn. I cannot sleep beside this holy animal. The rabbi says, no problem. I'll take the barn. The politician, the Hindu priest are settling down for the night. All of a sudden, knock on the door. It's the rabbi. He says, fellas, there's a pig in the barn. I can't sleep beside a filthy pig. The politician says, let it be remembered. I sacrificed for the greater good. He heads out to the barn. The rabbi and the Hindu priest are settling down for the night. There's a knock on the door. They open it. It's the pig and the cow.
That's a good one, Salvador. Thank you very much. Come back soon, and good luck with the movie, and let my people laugh. What an enjoyable way to wrap up our interview. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you. All the best, John. Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Our pleasure. 38 million Americans, according to the American Diabetes Association, suffer from diabetes. Another 93 million are diagnosed as pre-diabetic. Well, Tim Keller doesn't believe that they're 93. He doesn't believe in pre-diabetes, and he thinks he has a holistic cure for the 38 million diagnosed as diabetics. Tim Keller, welcome to The Truth, and tell us how we can first reverse our pre-diabetes, if you would, even though you don't believe in it, and tell us how you can cure your diabetes.
Well, John, I got a little funny that I use with that. I say you're not pre-pregnant, right? Either you're pregnant or you're not. Same thing with diabetes. Diabetes is an insulin resistance of that the cells that live in the muscle that creates insulin resistance is a cause of type 2, type 3 diabetes. Obviously, type 1 is an autoimmune condition that's caused by the beta cells being shut down in the pancreas. But as far as type 2, type 3, it is insulin resistance of the cells that can lay dormant in the cells up to 10, 15 years before you are diagnosed with diabetes. So diabetes is a diagnosis of, your A1C being between, I think, 5, 6 to higher. And they're saying that prediabetes is 5, 6 to 7.0 is a pre-diabetic range. They're all diabetic. So, if there is a pre-range that they're saying they need to get fixed while they're in the pre-range, because once they become a full-blown diabetic, you can still reverse it, but obviously there's a little more work to do when their A1C is higher.
Well, prevention is the best cure in my belief system. So how do we prevent it? What do we do?
So, John, we got to get back to the basics. We have to exercise. We need to drink more water. We need to eat more fiber, more fruits and vegetables in our life. All this processed foods, the hydrogenated wheat, high fructose corn syrup, processed flour, processed sugar, and then you got your refined fats and refined processed foods that have all chemicals and dyes and poisons in them, and we're feeding this food to Americans.
So I have a martini a day, whether I need it or not, and I've discovered something horrible that's in my own backyard. Dairy Queen. My car just drives there automatically every night after dinner, and my wife and I each enjoy a children's size chocolate ice cream cone. Am I going to become diabetic?
No, that's the worst thing you're doing, John. You're on a good path. I mean, no one's saying to be a body Nazi and not enjoy some things like that. Martini, I don't think it's going to hurt you. A little kids cone's not going to hurt you. What's hurting people is they're eating this processed stuff for breakfast, lunch, dinner. They're eating meat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Processed meats, processed foods that are killing our kids. Kids aren't getting exercise. They're laying sedentary in the house, gaming or gamification on systems. You go by the parks today, John, when we were kids, we go by the park, it was filled, right? Everybody's playing sandlot football, baseball, running around. You go to a park, they're dead. And our youth are, in that number, John, that number that they're throwing out there, that 93 million pre-diabetics, I think it's higher. I think 2.5 or 4 Americans are diabetic.
That is such a sad commentary. I mean, what are parents shirking their responsibility these days when it comes to watching out over their children?
Well, John, I think there's a combination of that, right? With the parents, everything's on the go. No one's sitting down having family cooked meals anymore. And the parents are guilty of eating bad food. So what are the kids going to do? They're going to eat bad foods as well. Now, I'll take it one step further. I think the government and the big big pharma is responsible, because they're the ones allowing this bad food to go into our grocery stores. They're the ones that are approving, the FDA is approving these bad foods. So I think there's a dual responsibility here. I think America needs to get back to a healthier eating. People need to be educated. People aren't educated on what diabetes even is. They don't even not educated on what healthy eating is.
So are parents just not doing their jobs these days and getting their kids out to play and get exercise and live a healthy lifestyle?
Absolutely, John. I think parents have to get kids out and do more. You go by the parks, you don't see kids out playing anymore like we did when we grew up. They're not having family meals around the table, learning how to cook wholesome meals that are healthy. Everybody's on the run, fast foods, processed foods, refined fats and sugars. It's killing Americans.
When I was in grammar school, middle school, and high school, uh, we had we had recess, and we also had PE. And PE was my favorite part of the day. We'd play softball, football, volleyball. We would run track. And do those activities continue today in school? I frankly just don't know.
Yeah. Well, I just had kids that finish high school, and yeah, they do. But I have a lot of friends that are actually in the schools and teachers, gym teachers, and they said these kids are lazy. They bring in notes from doctors to not actually physically have to, do the mile run or, certain activities in gym. They're sitting around on their phones. They refuse to do what the gym teachers ask them to do. It's a whole different world in these schools now with kids.
Is there a link between obesity and diabetes?
You can be you can be a diabetic and not be obese, but there definitely is a link to obesity and diabetes. Obesity, actually is a metabolic also condition through the cellular metabolic is dysfunction, and that's where the increased fat cells and storage of fat. So all those things that can absolutely wreak havoc on the body and also cause diabetes.
I just want to shed 10 pounds. I can't do it. I mean, really the only way I can do it is to cut out alcohol, sugar, and carbohydrates. And if I'll
100%.
do that for a month, then I can lose 5 or 10 pounds. But as soon as I go back, it
Yeah.
comes right back on. And I have this constant battle.
That
Yeah,
nightly
exactly.
martini and ice cream cone, if you cut that out for a month, you'll hit your goal.
Well, but you're cutting out my reasons for living. I'm 72 years old, for crying out loud. How do I have my cake and eat it too? I don't think exercise in itself is going to do it. I ride a bike. I played tennis for 2 hours last night. I'm pretty active for most any 72-year-old, but that weight is just stubborn.
Well, John, I'll tell you, Dr. Castro, he'll tell you who's our educator. And he told me this fact, and trust me, I like my martinis as well. He says, if you can't burn a fat pound until all the alcohol is burned out of your system. So it takes alcohol between 24 to 48 hours to burn out of your system. So if you're having a martini a night, probably you're just going to have to live with that extra 10 pounds.
Hmm. Well, maybe I just cut back to like 3 days of martinis, and how
Yeah.
about 4 days off the booze?
Yeah. Well, and Dr. Castle would tell you to quit it altogether. But like I said, so, uh, in our education series, I mean, I'm a realist, right? So we try to educate diabetics on the proper way to eat and exercise, get fiber, hydration, all those things. But I'm a realist. I mean, we got to let people enjoy themselves. So
Yeah.
I tell people, Monday through Friday, be a good steward to your body. On Saturday, do have a splurge day or cheat day, and then on Sunday, fast and get back at it again on Monday.
And Sunday, repent for your sins.
Yeah, repent for your sins.
And when you say cut it out altogether, you remind me of the couple that were elderly, and the husband said that when he was middle aged, his wife made him quit smoking and drinking and looking at young girls because it would make him live longer. And he said that's not true. It just makes it seem a lot longer. So, on that note, we will leave it with you, Tim. Thank you so much for coming on The Truth. Tim Keller, that's this week's edition of Growing Old Gracefully BS, but it is a good formula for living and longevity, I think, if we can avoid contracting diabetes.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much.
Have a great rest of your weekend, Tim. Thank you. Eric Holt was the chief of the fire department in Florissant, Colorado. He observed what he believed to have been election tampering. He complained, and the next thing you know, he was fired as the fire chief. Eric, it's a pretty difficult story to hear. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on. But yeah, in a nutshell, I was serving as the fire chief, and special district elections happened May 2nd, 2023. And after the election was over, five non-incumbents had won, and some complaints had been received, and there was a lot of chaos, and the election officer was employed by the prior uh, district board, who also worked for it was a paralegal for the law firm that represented the district. And so, in communication with that designated election officer, there was some complaints received from citizens of wonky things happening on that election. And so I took it upon myself.
Can you give us some examples of the wonky things?
Yeah, I mean, the initial reports were that there was voter intimidation, people were being filmed, there was a lot of electioneering happening, um, and so it raised concerns to the law firm and the DEO, but also to me and the board that I had worked for at the time. And so I went to this third party company that did the security footage, and I paid them. Gave I went and bought a thumb drive out of my own money and went off duty, and I retrieved this footage. And when I reviewed the footage, it was quite alarming, like very alarming. And so,
what did you find?
Just a coordinated effort. So I kind of tell the story like I didn't know what I was looking for. I'm a fire chief, firefighter my entire career, right? So I go into this very unique situation just sort of blind to the world in politics, I guess. And I printed out the Colorado election statutes and I read them before I sat down, and I watched this like 40 hours worth of footage. And what that enabled me to do was kind of, one, know what to sort of look for, and then I could go down and go, oh, okay, that's a violation there. So there was multiple cameras, and basically what took place was the poll watchers for the candidates sat obviously in the ballot casting room, and they had these track counters, and they would interact with voters basically that were casting their ballots, and then you could see them doing an action in their hand. And it took me a while on the film to kind of catch one frame of it and see exactly what it was, but that wasn't all of it. That didn't really explain the whole caper, if you will. And so I had to find these moments in the video where it would go from one camera to the next, and I could kind of follow one of these people. And what they were doing is they would be on their cell phones, and they would go out, they would walk out of the fire station when the election is, and they were talking to somebody. And the complaint that I had heard was that they were overheard saying, well, did you pay them already? What are they driving? This and that. And so when I was able to kind of follow it on the cameras, they would literally receive a call or a text. They would walk outside. They would meet these people and tell them who to vote for. Then they would go in. The people would cast their ballot. They would kind of nod or point to them, and they would click, and they would vote. They would capture that vote as an in favor vote. And then later in the day, the outside camera caught 3 poll watchers and one of the candidates, and they kind of detailed right under the camera. They couldn't have picked a better spot, but the audio is crystal clear. And they basically, here's what the count is. This is how we've been doing this. They knew the numbers that they couldn't go over, so that they knew they won. You know what I mean? And they're telling the candidate like, oh, you're going to win because we know the numbers. And so throughout the whole day, you see it. They're meeting voters. They're giving them names. They're up in the ballot counting room, counting the votes, keeping tabulations on it. So it's not like it was an exit poll survey. Like, they were manipulating the outcome of election.
So they were talking to voters before they went into the booth. And then the clicker was designed to record their vote for the candidate that, I guess, you believe they were telling the elector to vote for?
Yeah, so these five people ran as a vote for one, vote for all kind of platform instead of independent. And so when these
A
voters
slate.
were coming in, yeah, they were literally, you could hear it on the audio, being told the names to go vote for.
By the poll workers. These were
Yeah,
poll
the poll
workers.
watchers themselves.
And you think they were paying people to vote a particular way?
I have no ability to prove that they were, except for the citizen complaint that was received. It said, I heard them say, had you paid this person already? They were incentivizing him in some way. I think that's pretty clear through the footage.
Well, do you have an elector who has said that they were paid or incentivized to vote for a particular candidate or slate?
No, I don't have anybody that has. No.
Have you asked? Have you tried to find someone?
I haven't, and part of the issue is they fired me so rapidly that like the dust didn't even settle in that community, and so I've had to, I'm a single dad, so I had to find new employment and take care of my daughters above anything, So I don't even live in that community. 33 days between when I turned that evidence to law enforcement and I no longer had a job.
Well, what was law enforcement's feedback to you about the evidence that you presented them? Did they have any feedback for you?
Yeah, I mean, I talked to them several times. So the first interaction was I was contacted by DA investigator from the 4th Judicial DA's attorney office in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and he said, I've talked to the law firm, and I was talking to the lawyer and all this stuff, and so I knew this had been reported, and that's why I went and got this footage, and so I met with him, and as I describe it, if you've ever been around a law enforcement officer, they're just like normal, fun people. I'm a fireman. He was a law enforcement. So there was some joking and, just sort of like casual interactions when I first met with him. And I sat him down and I plugged in the thumb drive and I started showing him very direct evidence. And I had the rules of the Colorado statutes in front of me when I was doing that. And his body language changed, and he stopped the kind of casual. So he went into work, he went work mode, and he absolutely said like, oh, this is bad. This is very obvious. And in the DA report that I've gotten since, I mean, he flat out says there's absolute evidence of election fraud that took place on this election.
Well, did anything happen? Did the DA take any action?
Not one. No law enforcement in any level has taken any action against these individuals.
So what do you make of that? What's your interpretation of what happened?
It was confusing for a while for me.
Did you ever circle back around with that law enforcement officer that you spoke with? And did he tell you why nothing had happened or give you any insight?
I did. They actually called me when they finalized the case, and that was my first sort of. He said, we're not pushing any charges, and I said, well, how? Like, there's 40 hours of election fraud. Like, how did you not find anything? And he goes, oh, there was one interaction where the guy that's a poll watcher tells his girlfriend, and that that could be protected by the Constitution. So, and he was very, very closed off. And I've called since. So the DA or the deputy DA that made the final decision has since been arrested, which is kind of a unique situation. So I called
what
back.
Charge? For what charges?
I don't remember. He was drunk or something like that and committed an act of violence or of some sort.
I see.
Right?
Unrelated to what we're talking about.
Yeah. So, but then when I started doing the social media recently, somebody sent me an article and it kind of clicked why. So in the mayor race, the same month, in the same DA district, there was upheaval in the outcome of that election, and it was done by the Daily Wire. And so the mayor of Colorado Springs, there was a runoff election, and there was this faked racial act that happened, went all over the news. This guy wins, and then it comes out DOJ investigated, and it was all this fraud. And the article says there was direct pressure by the mayor and within the county to get rid of anything election related. And so, unfortunately for me, that's where my case was. And I think the bigger issue in Colorado is there's systemic stuff relating to elections that are bad news for the state and for local jurisdictions, and it all just sort of gets swept. And I think I was kind of a victim to that. I reported it to local sheriff's office, I reported to the DA, I reported to the state AG, and nobody will take action. Nobody will even look at it.
But nobody will tell you that you're wrong, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't. Once you watch that, it is so obvious. I mean, there's no questions left. It's been a wild journey.
Do you have any video you could share with us this morning?
I do. I can send it to you after the podcast. I can email you some stuff, or I have it on my Justice for Holt Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter accounts.
All right. So what happened after you were let go?
Well, the whole circus of this drummed up thing. So to kind of launch into that, I've got to give you the reason why they you can't come out and say, oh, this guy testified against us, so we're firing him. Yeah. Everybody knows that's pretty obvious. So the board of the non-incumbents takes over in this like seizing power moment. They don't transition with the prior board. They know they're under investigation, and they just sort of come in and they say, we're in charge. And the next day they freeze all the bank accounts for the fire department, and they start attacking me. Like, I got an email the day they take over, and it's the number one item was, where is the security camera footage and how do we access the what's the username and passwords and all this? And if anybody that listens has ever been a part of a fire department or hasn't, it doesn't matter. If you're a newly elected board for a fire department, is the security camera footage your number one priority? I can't imagine that anybody would agree with that, but that was theirs. Mm-hmm. And so they freeze the bank accounts. The insurance bill for the district doesn't get paid because there is no way for it to be paid. Nor does the fire chief have the authority to do that. That's a board governed thing to pay a $23,000 bill. So the insurance lapses, and they fire me on that. And within, like I said, 33 days between the time I turned over election fraud evidence and I no longer had a job. And of that, they were the board for something like 20 of those days. And so they, like, if you want to talk about swift action, and mind you, I was on vacation for a week and a half of it. So they moved as fast as they humanly could to fire me and get rid of me and blame this whole insurance thing. And so I retained an attorney, and I filed a lawsuit in the federal court of District of Colorado for First Amendment retaliation. And there was two other things that were dismissed pretty early, one with prejudice, one without. And so the without prejudice still somewhat remains. I can refile that. But basically they were covered as the district entity under the Colorado Government Immunity Act. And so I would need to name them individually and refile it, which I am doing in the state court. I've reserved the federal court for the outcome of the state. Basically, I'm kind of playing everything I can. But on the First Amendment.
It's interesting that you've asserted a First Amendment claim as opposed to a wrongful termination claim. What am I missing here?
Well, so that is the charge that was dismissed without prejudice, is the wrongful termination.
I see.
Because the entity itself can't be held liable for the actions of
the board.
The board in a willful and wanton disregard for law, basically. So
when you say naming them individually, does that mean you're suing them individually, or just that they have to be identified individually somehow in the lawsuit?
Well, I am pursuing the federal case on the First Amendment still in the 10th Circuit. I have filed a lawsuit in the state district court against each board member individually. for breach of contract and wrongful termination. And so I am going about it in kind of a split manner because I want to focus my federal case on the First Amendment. I think that has such a chilling effect if it's upheld, that these people could do that. That's my top priority.
Yeah. Well, I'd be inclined to agree with you, and we see it all over the country. What appears to be significant voter fraud and tampering, and the courts just won't touch it. And I don't understand it. It's almost like, if you want to run for office and you can steal votes, have at it, because there are no repercussions and you're not going to have to pay any kind of a price for it other than you'll get sworn into the office that you didn't get elected to. It's very disheartening. And I appreciate the fact that you were willing to put yourself out there and put your neck on the line for something that you believe in. So the part of your federal lawsuit was dismissed, and so you're in state court and federal court. Where do we go from here?
Well, so the First Amendment charge in the lawsuit was dismissed on summary judgment, that election administration was the duty of the fire chief. And, in Lane v. Franks and Garcetti and all these huge case laws that govern this stuff, you cannot apply such a broad scope on job responsibilities that it makes it impossible to have a First Amendment. I mean, the Supreme Court has upheld so many times that as a public official or as a citizen, you do not give up your First Amendment rights through employment. And so I am fighting that tooth and nail.
Well, did you have, I'm confused. Did you have some official duty over elections?
I did not. In fact, the board, so Colorado state statute defines election administration as a board responsibility. I was employed by the board, but the board employed a designated election official and a deputy. And so I'm, I don't obviously agree with the district court judges granting of summary judgment. And that is my argument in the appellate court is, one,
Yes.
There's a huge amount of disputed facts that can never be proven without sworn testimony under oath on the stand.
Yeah.
So
There
it's
are
not
issues of fact that have to be decided.
Yeah, and I'm learning this as I go. I knew nothing about law. Again, I'm a career firefighter, but I am pro se in the 10th Circuit, and so literally every single day I'm reading case law and getting ready because I can no longer afford, after $150,000, to keep a lawyer employed.
Wow. So if I understand it, you were just acting in your individual capacity as a concerned citizen. You got a hold of the security film, and that's when you could see visibly that there was at least tampering, if not fraud, but not in the capacity of your being the fire chief. You just happened to be a citizen that happened to work as the fire chief.
Yeah, in fact,
that right?
wasn't. Yeah, that's my entire argument. I wasn't even at the place of election, except for we did have to respond. There was a gentleman that suffered a cardiac arrest, which was a heart attack, and he unfortunately passed away that day. He did that in the parking lot. And so that's a part of the job, right? I was acting in my job to do that, but I had nothing to do with the election. And despite what the district's attorney has said is, I retrieved this footage on my own personal money to get a thumb drive that was big enough to go, and I paid out of pocket off duty to retrieve all of this footage. But they have made this argument, and they convinced the district court judge, I guess, that I only had access because I was the fire chief, not because of any other reason. But, my argument is this is a tax-funded building. Anybody could have gone to this third-party company and said, I want the security camera footage.
What would the security company say? Did they believe that you were acting in your official capacity, or
there was no questions asked? I mean, I went
as a citizen.
Yeah, I went after hours, and I just said, "Here, this is what I need." They didn't ask any questions.
Yeah.
It's transparency laws in Colorado are pretty robust. You can't hide from the taxpayers.
Well, I will say it seems to be part of another emerging trend that if you're a whistleblower and you come forth, uh, be prepared for the ramifications, because sometimes you're going to pay a price for speaking up and speaking out. And I think that's unfortunate, because we've got laws that are supposed to protect whistleblowers and people who want to do the right thing and want government to do the right thing. But it is just not easy. And so, Eric Holt, thank you very much for what you're doing. Keep us posted. I hope you are victorious in your appeal in the 10th Circuit. And we all have to fight for election integrity. And it is the foundation of our republic. If we lose the franchise, we lose our republic. We're just no better than the third world country. So thank you for what you've done to help maintain our republic.
Thank you, sir.
If you would like to learn more about Eric Holt's study or case rather, you can go and check him out. You can look at on X at Justice for Holt, or on TikTok at Justice for Holt. And you can also go to his GoFundMe page at Justice for Holt. Election integrity is something that we all must care about and must be activists for. I really commend Eric Holt, and I feel bad for the repercussions that he's suffered when he was actually trying to do something that benefits all of our society and our republic, as I said. So go check it out, Justice for Holt, on X, TikTok, and GoFundMe. We come to you every Saturday on the John Fredericks Media Network in Nashville, Atlanta, Richmond, Norfolk, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Morgantown, West Virginia. We're also on X, Facebook, YouTube, Getter, Rumble. Go check us out on the live stream, and you can watch us live on either of those services. All of our past episodes are also on johngordon.tv. And of course, as always, you can write me at johngordontruth@gmail.com.